When the air raid sirens echo across the night, what's coming isn't random artillery. It's precision. A warhead traveling hundreds of kilometers, guided by satellites, algorithms, and years of engineering. It's not just meant to destroy, it's meant to send a message. These are the weapons that define modern warfare. Systems built not to win a single battle, but to shape entire campaigns. Iskander, the road mobile ballistic launcher that can strike before a defender even knows it's been targeted. Kolibor, the sea-launched cruise missile that turns every submarine and warship into a roaming strike platform. And KH-101, the long-range air-launched missile that can fly for hours beneath radar, slipping through defenses to hit critical infrastructure deep inside enemy territory. Together, they form a triad of reach: ground, sea, and sky, giving Russia the ability to strike far beyond the front lines. Since 2022, these systems have reshaped not just the war in Ukraine, but the entire logic of air defense across Europe. Every launch doesn't just destroy, it forces adaptation. Supply lines move underground. Command centers scatter. Power grids go dark. Each strike costs millions to intercept. And yet, every successful defense still drains the defender's resources. They are not the fastest, nor the newest, but they are the weapons that have changed how time, distance, and cost work in war. One truck, one ship, one bomber, each capable of unleashing devastation hundreds of kilometers away. So tonight, we're going to break them down, how they work, what they've achieved, and why their impact reaches far beyond the battlefield. Let's begin where speed meets precision, on the ground with Iskander. 1. Iskander. Speed, shock, and precision. On the modern battlefield, time is everything. The faster you can strike, the fewer chances your opponent has to react. And few systems embody that principle more clearly than Iskander. At first glance, it looks almost simple. A truck, a launcher, 6 wheels, and a missile. But beneath that simplicity lies one of the most sophisticated short-range ballistic systems in the world. Designed for speed, mobility, and surprise, Iskander was built to erase the boundary between tactical and strategic strike. Each transporter erector launcher carries 2 missiles, solid fuel, high-precision weapons capable of reaching roughly 500 kilometers in minutes. Using a combination of inertial navigation, satellite updates, and terminal guidance, it can land within just a few meters of its target. The warhead options vary, from high explosive fragmentation to bunker-penetrating charges, giving commanders flexibility to hit airfields, depots, or command centers. But it's not the payload that makes Iskander dangerous. It's the way it moves. The missile follows a quasi-ballistic trajectory, climbing and then descending with unpredictable maneuvers that make interception incredibly difficult. Traditional air defenses, built to counter predictable arcs, struggle to react. And once launched, defenders have seconds, not minutes, to respond. That speed and agility make Iskander a perfect shoot-and-scoot system. Launch, relocate, hide. Within 10 minutes, the launcher can fire and vanish, long before counter-battery systems can find it. It turns a truck into a ghost, a weapon that appears, strikes, and disappears before the radar picture stabilizes. In the Russia-Ukraine war, Iskander became a key element of early long-range strikes. Publicly available footage and satellite imagery showed launches aimed at air bases, logistics nodes, and command facilities deep behind the front line. Its use was calculated, not for area destruction, but for disruption. Hitting a single ammo depot could delay entire offensives. Destroying a key bridge or command post could paralyze coordination for days. Every time an Iskander was fired, Ukrainian planners had to reconsider which locations were truly safe. Rear areas, once thought untouchable, became part of the battlefield. The psychological effect was almost as powerful as the physical one. Commanders were forced to move more often, hide deeper, and rely on deception rather than mass. But Iskander's precision comes at a cost. Each missile is expensive and requires detailed targeting data. It isn't a system for mass saturation. It's a scalpel, not a hammer. When intelligence or surveillance falters, its advantage diminishes. Still, as a theater-level weapon, its message is clear. Nowhere is truly beyond reach. A convoy that thought it was safe 200 kilometers from the front might not be. A fuel depot deep inland could vanish in a single flash. Myth: ballistic missiles are blunt instruments. Fact: modern systems like Iskander are precision tools, fast, accurate, and psychological weapons as much as physical ones. And if Iskander represents the shock of a sudden strike from the ground, the next weapon expands that reach to an entirely new domain: the sea. From mobile launchers on land to stealthy platforms offshore, let's look at the missile that can hit from hundreds of kilometers away, launched from beneath the waves. Calibar. 2. Caliber, the sea's hidden arsenal. If Iskander is the lightning strike from land, then Caliber is the silent blade of the sea, unseen until it's far too late. The Caliber family, known by NATO as the SSN-30, is Russia's long-range, sea-launched cruise missile system. What makes it formidable isn't just its reach, but where it comes from. It can be fired from frigates, submarines, or even small corvettes, turning almost every naval platform into a floating strike base. Each missile weighs over a ton, carries a 450-kilogram high explosive or penetrating warhead, and cruises at subsonic speed for most of its flight, before accelerating in its terminal phase. Its range depends on the variant, but open sources report anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 kilometers. That's the distance from the Black Sea to Berlin. What makes Caliber particularly dangerous is its flight profile. It travels just meters above the surface, following the contour of the land or sea, making it extremely hard to detect by radar until it's almost upon the target. Using inertial navigation, GLONASS satellite guidance, and terrain contour matching, it weaves its way through valleys, rivers, or coastlines, hugging the earth like a shadow. For Ukraine, that shadow has been all too real. Caliber missiles launched from the Black Sea Fleet have targeted power stations, military depots, rail nodes, and industrial plants. Each strike is not just physical, but psychological, a reminder that danger can come from hundreds of kilometers away, beyond the horizon. And unlike aircraft-launched missiles, Calibers can be fired from relative safety, deep in the Black Sea, or even from the Caspian. That means Ukrainian and NATO air defenses can't easily reach their launch platforms. A ship can surface, fire a volley, and retreat under escort before retaliation is possible. But perhaps the most striking lesson of Caliber is adaptability. What started as a naval missile evolved into land-based launchers and submarine variants, giving Russia a flexible toolkit that blurs the line between tactical and strategic strike. A single corvette can now do what once required a bomber squadron. The first time calibers were used in Ukraine, the footage went global. Missiles arcing over the horizon, flying low over farmland and cities before slamming into targets hundreds of kilometers away. It was both a show of force and a test. How far could these weapons reach, and how fast could defenders adapt? Ukraine quickly learned the rhythm, tracking launch alerts, plotting flight paths, and coordinating with Western intelligence to intercept what it could. Still, not every missile could be stopped. Power substations, industrial hubs, and fuel depots became regular targets. Each caliber that slipped through added another layer of strain, forcing more interceptors into service and stretching radar networks thin. Myth: sea-launched missiles are unstoppable. Fact: they can be countered, but each interception costs far more than the missile itself. And that's the deeper effect of caliber: cost imposition. Every time one is fired, Ukraine must respond with interceptors, coordination, and emergency response. A weapon costing perhaps $1 million forces tens of millions in countermeasures. It's not just warfare, it's economics by explosion. So if Iskander defines the fight on land, and caliber dominates from the sea, what about the air? What happens when a bomber can strike from over 1,000 kilometers away, dropping missiles that fly low, slow, and silent for hours before hitting their mark? That's where we meet the third piece of the triad, Ka Sara-1, Russia's long-range air-launched cruise missile, a weapon designed for reach, persistence, and precision. 3. Kaitos 101, the long arm of the sky. If Iskander strikes like a hammer and caliber cuts like a blade, then KH-101 is something else entirely, the invisible hand of the sky. You don't see it coming. You don't even hear it until it's too late. The KH-101, NATO reporting name AS-23 Kodiak, is Russia's premier long-range air-launched cruise missile. It's designed for one purpose: to deliver precise, deep penetrating strikes from far beyond the reach of enemy defenses. Each one can travel over 2,000 kilometers, flying low and slow, weaving through terrain like a ghost beneath the radar. Unlike the Iskander's roar or the caliber's sea-skimming rush, the KH-101 moves with deliberate stealth. Launched from strategic bombers like the Tu-95MS or Tu-160, it can strike anywhere in Ukraine or far beyond, without the aircraft ever leaving Russian airspace. That's what makes it so dangerous: distance as protection. Technically, the KH-101 is a marvel of precision engineering. It uses inertial navigation, GLONASS satellite updates, terrain contour matching, TERCOM, and optical correlation systems, DSMAC, to stay on course. In its final moments, it switches to a terminal guidance seeker, locking onto its target with pinpoint accuracy. Its warhead weighs around 400 kilograms, capable of devastating hardened bunkers, energy plants, or military-industrial sites. But the true weapon isn't the explosive. It's the combination of range, stealth, and persistence. The missile cruises at 700, 900 kilometer range, hugging the Earth at altitudes as low as 30 meters, skimming over rivers and forests to stay hidden from radar. It can remain airborne for hours, taking complex routes to confuse tracking systems before diving toward its target. In Ukraine, the KH-101 has been used repeatedly for deep strikes, attacks on power grids, military industries, and command centers deep in the country's heartland. Satellite images and recovered debris have confirmed its use in Kyiv, Lviv, Vinnytsia, and other cities far from the front line. Its presence in the sky is often preceded by a grim warning. Hours of air raid sirens, then the sound of interceptors firing into the night. Every launch triggers a national defense ballet. Radar locks, tracking systems engage, fighters scramble, and civilians take cover. Ukraine's air defenders have learned to read the rhythm of these attacks, intercepting many Kh-101s mid-flight. But not all, and each successful strike leaves a mark. Not just on infrastructure, but on morale. That's the essence of strategic warfare, to make the defender spend more time reacting than acting. A Kh-101 may cost around $1 million, but to stop it requires multiple interceptors, radar coordination, and sleepless vigilance. Even when it's intercepted, it's done its job. It's drained attention, energy, and ammunition. Myth: long-range missiles are tools of destruction. Fact: they're tools of exhaustion, designed to stretch defenses and erode endurance over time. Together, Iskander, Kalibr, and Kh-101 represent three dimensions of modern precision warfare: land, sea, and air, converging into a single idea: control through constant pressure. They strike from different domains, but their purpose is unified: to make no place feel safe. And yet, every weapon has a counter. For every missile launched, new defenses rise: faster radars, smarter interceptors, AI-assisted targeting. This is the dance of modern war: speed versus precision, cost versus survival, signal versus silence. Because in the end, the battlefield isn't just where the missiles land. It's where adaptation decides who endures. In this war, no weapon fights alone. The Iskander strikes fast and close, breaking supply chains and command links. The Kalibr hits from the sea, turning distance into safety for the attacker. And the Kh-101 hovers in the shadows of the sky, proving that reach is power. Together, they form a triad of modern warfare: land, sea, air, all working to stretch defenses, drain resources, and rewrite what front line even means. But every strike sparks a countermeasure. Every weapon teaches the enemy how to survive the next one. That's the cycle: adapt, respond, evolve. And this cycle is only speeding up. In the next episode, we'll explore the systems built to stop these missiles, the interceptors, sensors, and AI-driven shields, now defining the defense of the future. So if you've made it this far, hit subscribe, leave your thoughts below, and stay tuned. Because the next battlefield isn't about who fires first, it's about who learns faster.